Would you like to work closer to home, save money on gas, and be rewarded for your hard work and attendance? Then Bellisio Foods is looking for you. That's right, Bellisio Foods is now hiring for multiple positions and shifts with great employee benefits, an on-site health clinic, competitive wages, and advancement opportunities. Bellisio Foods is a company that truly values their employees. Apply online at BellisioFoods.com/careers.
At Vinton County National Bank, we believe in supporting the areas where we live and work. Now, we'd like to honor those who also serve our communities. Our new Community Champions account is especially for first responders, veterans, active military, and anyone employed in the fields of healthcare or education. This account offers rewards, discounts, and other benefits to those who give so much to others. Vinton County National Bank, rewarding those who serve.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Friday edition of the morning show right here on Main Street TV, where our good friend Pete Wilson is in the house to do the morning news update. And that is brought to you by Nia Henry, agent for Appalachia Realty. We want to give a big shout out to Nia. Spoke with her yesterday, and she's doing fine. Pete has on his red shirt today, which means you have to go to your next job after this job.
Right, yeah. You know all the cues, don't you?
Yes.
Right. That means it's Friday Night Football.
That's right.
And we will get around to that because a lot of people look forward to that. But three of our local teams in action tonight, one not. That's a story in and of itself, but we will get there. We will get there. As a matter of fact, Jennifer, on the news side, which is where we'll start, maybe our biggest news story, arguably, because we have some of them I think that are very good, is about football.
Okay.
And this was addressed Wednesday evening at the monthly Oak Hill Union Local Board of Education meeting. And as sports fans are very aware, especially those in the Oak Hill area, there's been a real issue this year with the Oak Hill Oaks football team.
Yes.
First of all, they didn't have a lot of players to begin with. You know, the numbers are down.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, there have been some injuries on the team. And, they happen in football, but that makes it even harder for, a team to compete when they don't have very many healthy players. And to eviscerate the situation, Oak Hill plays in a very tough conference, and they're one of the smaller schools.
Mm-hmm.
Southern Ohio Conference, Division II. There's Division I smaller schools, Division II larger schools, and Oak Hill's kind of on the fringe, and right now they're placed in Division II.
Okay.
All right, so that was the issue that got addressed at the Oak Hill Union Local School Board meeting on Wednesday evening. Our multimedia journalist, Jeremiah Shaver, was there. He normally covers the Oak Hill meeting, and we were certainly glad he was there. As a matter of fact, just this morning, I read his report. We're going to have a very detailed report on that meeting and that issue being addressed.
Okay.
I commend Jeremiah for the hard work he did in getting that story down and out so we can share it with the public, with the readership. But I also commend Oak Hill Superintendent Jason Mantell,
Yes.
who we've had him on the
Yes.
show before, because he addressed the issue head on, didn't try to deflect it or anything like that. There were some concerned parents of some of these Oak Hill football players who were there.
Okay.
And they were prepared to speak. But before they did, he addressed the situation on the decision-making process that he and other school officials, it's not just him, but he is the head man, the superintendent, have made this year regarding whether the Oaks play or they don't play. This is week 7 of the Oak Hill football season, of the high school football season, and the Oaks are not playing this Friday.
Yeah.
They were supposed to play Wheelersburg at home. This is the second cancellation. Yep. Now, Jason he's not an Oak Hill guy as far as his background. I think he's from Wheelersburg, and he's worked other districts. But in his knowledge and what he has been told, they've never had to cancel a football game in history or in recent history. And now there's been 2 games canceled this year. The other one was several weeks ago at Minford.
Okay.
The Oaks have played the last 2 weeks, but they're not going to be able to play this Friday. What he did was he explained the process that school officials go through in deciding whether they can play or not play.
Okay.
And that was kind of part one of his of the discussion of him basically laying it out. And like I say, I commend him for being very detailed in that and explaining it, and not just giving a bottom line opinion and going on with the meeting. He did this on his own. And the bottom line is, they look at how many healthy players they have. Can they safely play, a football game? Also worried about, the other players who could, because, when you don't have enough players, you got players playing both ways, which is, some players do that, but,
Sure. You can't have the whole
right.
team
and
on the field the whole game.
Right. And you may have some players who have recovered from injuries, but not 100%, but cleared to play.
Sure.
And then, you just look at the whole 9 yards. You want to play if you can because you're supposed to. There's an obligation there. And the kids signed up to play.
Sure.
But you want to make sure that it's in their interest to play as well. And what I mean is, is it safe for them to play because of the number of players they play, the condition of the players, maybe even the team they're playing against, how good and physical is the team they're playing against. They probably weigh all those factors. And, Mantell talks with the coaches. He talks with the principals of both the high school and middle school. I'm sure he consults with the Board of Education and certainly the athletic director, a figure there. And they try to decide as early in the week as they can whether they can play. They contact the other school. They keep them in the loop, whether, they're able to play or not play. Because, after that first time of the cancellation, it's almost a week-to-week thing.
Right,
but,
for sure.
But he said, once again, the bottom line, and, there's different factors to consider on, whether you play or not play, the positives and the negatives. The bottom line is the health and safety of the players.
Absolutely.
He said that he took offense when it's been speculated that maybe when they shouldn't play, they will play because of the money situation. Because when you don't play, you're losing what they call the gate, all the proceeds of tickets and concessions. I mean, this is very important to a school budget. And don't believe that it's not. But that is not going to be the factor that tips it in them playing. He made that very clear. Last night.
And that's fair. And this is why he's not taking these decisions lightly. And I believe that because, you have the booster clubs that are running concession stands and all of these extra things that are affected by not playing. And
right,
you're exactly
and
right.
The band and cheerleaders are sidelined too.
Correct.
And the fans miss a game. And of course, there's your obligation to the other school that's expecting to play a football game, and they're able to play. So, all those factors are considered. But the bottom line is the team physically able to play? Is it in their interest to play because of the numbers of the injuries? You already have some players that are sidelined.
So what they're saying is there just aren't enough players to safely play.
That are healthy.
Yeah.
Because, injuries are going to happen in football.
Oh, sure.
But when you're already kind of on the fringe of having enough players to play, physically able to play at 100%, then, that is the decision. That's the main factor that has affected their decision so far. And we've got, after this week, 3 weeks left in the regular season. Right now, those games are going to be played unless, they look at the situation as the week begins and feel they can't. Players heal. A player who maybe wasn't in shape to play this week may be able to play next week, et cetera. The goal is to play, obviously, if they can.
Yeah,
now
everybody wants to play.
Exactly. Now, the second part of his discussion, which was really important as well, is what people are looking at, these parents that were there, they're looking at just not the situation now. They're looking down the road because they feel that Oak Hill, especially with the program where it is right now, frankly, with the number of players that are out for the team, and Oak Hill already being one of the smaller schools in Division II, is it madness to continue to play football in Division II and whatever? Well, you just don't decide, you're going to change the conference. That's something that all the schools have to decide to do.
This is a big deal.
Right, exactly. And, you can't do this. You can't decide well, we'll play basketball, but we're not going to play football, or we'll play volleyball, but we're not going to play football. You know, it's all a package deal.
Yeah.
When you're in a conference, all these sports, and really the only sport that seems to be a major concern right now, even though, you know, the size of the schools remain the same, of course, in all these sports, is football. Because, you know, you need more healthy players to play football. It's a high-profile sport.
Yep.
And I'll skip ahead to the parents. There were 4 parents there that signed up to speak. I'm not sure how many were out in the audience, but 4 parents of football players signed up to speak. The way it worked out, because Mantell addressed many of the issues, 3 of them chose to speak. 1 didn't think they needed to anymore because all the things had been said. Bless you.
I'm sorry.
Bless you.
Thank
But
you.
but what they were concerned about, they weren't there to complain that there had been cancellations. They
Sure.
were there to look out for their kids, feeling like their kids do not have a competitive chance right now in the SOC2. And, you know, what are we going to do? Is it going to be the same thing next year? We
Right.
got to somehow fix this.
Yeah. How do we fix this
Yeah, right.
program?
How do we fix it and still have a football program? And he had some hope to give, Jason Mantell did. There are talks going on in the SOC. I guess they've been going on for a while now. Nothing's been decided, so nothing can be revealed. There are no commitments that have been made. But the SOC has already made some changes in their alignment in their divisions. For instance, in some sports, there instead of 2 divisions, there are 3 because of the number of schools and trying to make it so the competition is about equal on the size of the schools. In football right now, it's still 2 divisions, mainly because some of the smaller schools don't have football.
Okay.
So there's fewer schools to have to do, so there's 2 divisions instead of 3. But the SOC officials are, having meetings. They're not private meetings in the sense that they're not out in the open, but it's meetings that, it's not like a school board meeting you go to. They're working quietly behind the scenes to come up with maybe a new constitution, a new alignment.
Okay.
And Jason Mantell cannot make any commitments. He cannot say what the plan is because it may not turn out that way. And then there'll be a vote at the end on whether, they should change the Constitution. But he says based on some of the proposals and issues that are being discussed on possible changes, it would be favorable to Oak Hill.
Okay.
Now, that would indicate that possibly Oak Hill would be in a better competitive situation in football under a new constitution and a new alignment of the teams.
Sounds good.
So this is something that could happen by the end of this school year or at the start of the next school year. And then, one of the problems there, even after you do it, schedules have to be fixed. And, they're sometimes determined in advance, a year or 2 or whatever. So there could be some changes that are occurring. They're certainly discussing it. So Jason said, he's going to be looking out for the Oak Hill kids. And there are others in the SOC who understand that there need to be some changes made. There's some schools very happy with the way things are.
Yeah, and that's cool.
And it is a symbiotic thing. Everybody is going to think of the good of the group, but they're also going to look out after their own interests too. For instance, one school may not want to make a change that's not favorable to them, and you can't blame that. So, it's going to be a balancing act, and we'll just have to see what happens. But what Jeremiah did last night, he's off today, and bless his heart, he couldn't get that story done by the end of the day, but he worked deep into the evening to finish it. We very much appreciate his effort. He is very dedicated. I appreciate him.
He is.
But his story will be on the front page of tomorrow's paper. Of course, we'll have it online as well, and you almost feel like if you read it that you were there. And this is a very important issue, of course, in the Oak Hill School District, but it has been noticed, I think, by sports fans in the area and certainly in our local area too, because, they can almost put themselves in the Oak Hill position. They feel so bad for the Oak Hill football program and those kids who are in this horrible situation of being in a competitive situation that is not favorable and also having the injuries they do. And then the kids that are healthy who maybe don't get to play because of the big picture.
And the other teams that aren't getting to play those games as well.
Right. And
how does that affect their rankings and all of that stuff?
Right.
When it's not their fault, you know?
Right. Exactly.
It's nobody's fault.
Right.
But.
And this was indirect, but it was kind of indicated, by some reliable sources. when Oak Hill canceled with Minford was pretty unhappy about it. It was their homecoming and everything. It
Yeah, it was a
disrupted,
bummer
and I can
game.
understand the disappointment. On the post that the Oak Hill School District made, they felt that Wheelersburg, who is the foe this week, the Berg was supposed to come to Oak Hill tonight. They felt that Berg was very understanding and patient, and they appreciated their
Yeah.
understanding with Oak Hill's situation. So that is one of the stories that
Just
we have
one
coming
story.
at you in our Saturday paper. Well, we have another sports related story that is also a kind of like a crime/court story that is also big. And we go to the opposite end of the county for this, to
Okay.
Wellston. There was a hearing in Jackson County Common Pleas Court on Wednesday, and there was an investigation done by the Wellston Police Department with support from the Ohio Attorney General's office. That's how important this case was.
Oh, this sounds good.
Now, we've reported on this before as, it was entering the court. Well, now there is some finality to it because there was a sentencing. But a woman by the name of Melanie Stanley, who lives in the Wellston School District, pled guilty and was sentenced in Jackson County Common Pleas Court to 1 year of community control, which means there's no jail time, but there's certain specifications, things she has to do in this period of 1 year. But what she was accused of doing was stealing thousands of dollars from a volleyball support group in the Wellston City School District.
Not cool.
Right. Now, this was not quote unquote school funds. This was a support group fund for the school.
Yeah.
And this is just the way it is. I know that some people think that overall sport, the tail wags the dog with sports in school. But the truth is that oftentimes through a lot of the things that these teams have, it is private money from support groups that make it happen.
Yes.
Because, the main money is needed for academics and all that stuff. And so this was one of those support groups. It was called the Spike Club, and before that it was called the Match Point Club, but that was the volleyball support group of the high school volleyball program in Wellston.
Okay.
And Melanie Stanley was in a situation, she was a board member, an officer in that group, and she kind of had control of the money. There apparently was not adequate oversight. Anytime that you have, and I'm not condemning this, but apparently this was the conclusions that were reached.
Yep.
Anytime that you have just one person handling the money and nobody's watching it, it is dangerous.
Well, it's dangerous for both sides. Like if you are the money handler
Mhm.
on your own too, you want to protect yourself, have somebody else involved, so you don't get falsely accused too.
Right.
So
Right, exactly.
it works both
ways.
ways.
You always have to have checks and balances
yes,
and review
for sure.
and like that. And in government and with schools, you have that. But this
audits.
this is a support group, and it's kind of their business. And in this case, it was decided, and she admitted to the crime, and there was basically a plea bargain. A greater charge was dropped because she agreed to pay back all the money, and it's $9,000.
Oh.
Can you believe that? $9,000 for a volleyball support group. Once again, it's the Spike Club, and she had been charged. She had been charged with a felony charge.
I was going to say that would be felony level.
They dropped it to misdemeanor theft because she agreed to pay back the money.
Okay.
All right. So, according to the Attorney General, he actually put out this news release. That's how important he considered it. He considered it an example to all support groups across the state. And so that was why it was publicized. Big news here in Jackson County, but it was, you'll maybe see stories about this or hear about it statewide too, depending on what the media chooses to report. But according to the Attorney General's news release, he said that, and this is the Wellston Police Department's investigation too that came to these conclusions. An investigation was launched when Booster Club volunteers reported discrepancies in the accounts to the police. So some other people in that support group thought, well, where's all this
seems
money?
Weird, yeah.
Right. Anyway, they said that Stanley was the only officer with access to the accounts, and that she used the charitable funds to make large personal purchases and issue checks to family members.
Oh, my.
So anyway, Jackson County Prosecutor Randy Dupree, who was in on the prosecution, he was quoted as saying, "Just as good teamwork can lead to victory, keen oversight can assure that charitable dollars serve their intended purpose. We're grateful for the collaborative investigation to put money back in the hands of the Booster Club where it belongs. In this case, they felt that getting the money back was more important than the punishment part. And I'm guessing that Mrs. Stanley had no record, before, all this occurred. But as a result, Attorney General Yost had some strong comments. He said she stole from the team and abused the trust of the parents. No matter how big or small the organizations, thieves looking to set themselves up with charitable funds need to know that they're playing a losing game. That was his quote in his statewide news release. And as a result of this case, he is shedding light on that. He now has, through his office, 4 web-based trainings that are available under the Charitable University platform, which he launched actually earlier this year. And that is 4 different ways that support groups like this volleyball support group, and we have many of them, in our local schools, they can do training on how to avoid something like this and how to handle the money correctly and make sure that nobody is stealing it. But that is another story that we will have in our Saturday paper.
Yep.
All right, another story that broke in the middle of the week. It was actually on the same night, a meeting in Wellston that was taking place at the Oak Hill School Board.
All kind of crazy stuff.
So Jeremiah covers this week, but he couldn't be 2 places at once. But like a good reporter, he was on it pretty quick. And this is a good story. And we needed some good news, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we've talked about before, and we've had stories in the paper about how the Wellston Main Street Group, that's the group that was founded, several years ago, more than several years ago, to pump some vitality back into the downtown area, try to help the business growth there, try to, recover, help Wellston recover, support business, do things like that. Well, 2 of the things that they did that's gained a lot of attention is that they started 2 community events that have been very popular in Wellston. That is the Wellston, the celebration of Wellston treats. Let's see. Christmas treats on Wellston Street.
Yes, you said it.
That's their Christmas celebration. And, of course, celebration of our nation for 4th of July.
Yes.
Well, we had a story not too long ago that Main Street had a meeting, and they're worried about whether they can even continue because of lack of participation. Everybody likes what Main Street does, but there's very few soldiers that are doing the work. And you're talking about the leaders and not a lot of foot soldiers. So leaders are also foot soldiers. Well, that part has apparently improved. Some people have agreed to stay with the group, and some new people have stepped up, which we'll maybe learn more about at their next meeting. But at this meeting on Wednesday evening, they came to the conclusion, and there's been some talking behind the scenes, that it's hard for Main Street to continue to do these 2 big community events.
Because they're huge.
Right. They didn't want to drop them. So what can we do? Well, they have decided, and kudos to the Ohilco Society in Wellston. They have agreed to take over those 2 events.
Oh, awesome.
Big time. Now, the Ohilco Society, I think I know this first time. They won't say this, but I'll say it for them. It's not like there's people falling over themselves to do all that work either.
Exactly.
There is a core group that does a lot of the work, and then there's a lot of people that jump in at the time to support the Ohilco Society to put on the Ohio Hill Country Festival in many, many different ways. I'm not saying that people don't jump up to support it. There's not sponsorships and like that. But as far as the organizational people that meet to do the work, relatively small group. But they voted also on Wednesday evening, we'll take it. We don't want to see those 2 events end. And so they hope to even develop them further than what they already are. And in my mind, what Main Street and supporters of Main Street did, community people who came forward to support it, those events are top notch.
Yes,
both of them are.
Big
The
time.
celebration of our nation, always held the Saturday before the 4th of July, all sorts of local activities, a parade, fireworks, and then of course, the Christmas thing, which is usually held on a Saturday in December as well, a 1-day deal. So many things downtown with businesses involved. They have a parade there too. That's the Lions Club that does it, and it's just a fantastic event. And it would have been sad to see it end, just because I'm not sure Main Street would have stepped away, but they felt like they needed to. And so the
Yeah.
Ohilco Society
It all
has
worked
stepped
out.
up again in a very big way.
Good.
And they do it on the heels of, one of the more successful high-profile festivals they've had in the history.
Yes.
With the sesquicentennial and the 50th anniversary of the festival itself.
Yep. Absolutely.
So that is another story that will be in Saturday's paper. And we're just not reporting what happened, but, we're talking to people who were involved on both sides. And once again, commend Jeremiah on that. He was all over that story. So we do appreciate that. All right. Another good story to tell you. This has already been publicized. It was written up in our Wednesday paper, and there'll be much more to write about next week. But we haven't talked about it on TV. The Oak Hill Recreation League, that is the kind of like the booster group. It's they work with the schools, but it's separate from the schools. It's they run the youth sports programs.
Yet
in Oak
another
Hill.
booster group, right?
It used to be a different group with a different name, and some of the same people and new people stepped forward to kind of revitalize it because things were slipping a little bit. Once again, probably not enough Indians to do and leaders to do all the work, but. The Oak Hill Recreational League and the president is Corey Ruby. He's really progressive and hardworking, and has kind of, got a lot of people interested and on board with him on this.
For sure.
He worked to get a grant, a $50,000 grant.
This is super
from
cool.
Major League Baseball and Scott's Turf. That's the landscaping group. That does grass and a lot of other things too. He wrote a grant, and he may have had help do it, but there was only 3 entities in the whole country that got a grant. But this was basically a $50,000 grant to renovate an existing field.
Yes.
They had a T-ball field
cool.
down there at Oak Hill Elementary School, and this $50,000 has been used to upgrade that field in several different ways. But now it is a 10U field that can be used for both baseball and softball, not just T-ball. It's got regular. It's got
super awesome.
The dirt has been improved. The base, the making the field regulation. There it is, right there. Thanks for putting that picture up there, Dylan. That is a picture of the field as it looks now. Dirt in different areas. The base paths have been improved. They've just made it a regulation field to where, they can maybe do tournaments there.
Yeah.
Because, it's a regulation field now. They're going to celebrate that this Monday.
Yes.
And it is going to be big.
So cool.
Right. They're going to have,
cool.
there's going to be a dedication ceremony at the field at 5:30 p.m. and then a ribbon cutting at 5:45. There's going to be representatives of Scott's Turf and Major League Baseball there.
Yes.
This is a way that Major League Baseball supports baseball at the youth level, and it's happening, right here in our local area at Oak Hill,
Ohio.
Yeah,
How
Scott's
fun.
Field Refurbishment Program, Play Ball. That's their logo. But here is the exciting thing about this celebration. And the celebration in and of itself is noteworthy. But Jenny Finch is going to be there. Does that name mean anything to you?
It does.
Okay, well, you're old enough to know, and I certainly am, that she is one of the greatest Olympic softball players of all time.
So cool.
This is before, I think, she was playing before, I could be wrong on this, someone call me out if I am, but before softball was an Olympic sport, she was even playing softball, making the U.S. team one of the best, if not the best team in the world, because she was such a fantastic
She's so
pitcher.
good. Yes.
Well, she is associated with this program. And
amazing.
whenever they make one of these awards and they have one of these public events, like we're going to have Monday in Oak Hill, they send somebody of notoriety, a former Major League Baseball player, or somebody like Jenny Finch. So, this is a real coup having Jenny Finch in Jackson County and in Oak Hill.
Absolutely.
And she's going to, address people at this dedication ceremony and ribbon cutting. And then after the ribbon cutting, some representatives of Major League Baseball, I'm not sure who they are, they're going to put on a clinic for the kids.
This is so cool.
So, kind of like the inside story that is even better than just what has happened with the field and hurrah for the grant and all, is that the youth league program has been revitalized in Oak Hill. Mr. Ruby and other members of that board, they've got lots more kids participating. They are playing more sports and like that. They have kids involved in football and everything, much more than what there were in the past. And that is not only good for the kids at that age to be able to participate. That is Corey Ruby on the right, by the way. And with him on the left is the vice president of the Oak Hill Recreational League. That's James Chambers. That is at a recent meeting where they talked about some of the things, not only the grant and the upcoming event on Monday, but some other issues. They're very much tuned in to the Oak Hill High School program as well. They want to do all they can to support it. And, you've heard of the word feeder program?
Yes.
Well, if all these kids, if more kids are playing baseball and softball and volleyball and football,
yes,
it bodes well maybe for the future of Oak Hill football.
At a younger age,
right,
then
right.
they
Because
move up.
if they learn how to play the sport and they have fun, it's much more likely that they're going to play when they get to the middle school and the high school level.
Correct.
And for whatever reason, numbers had declined, and they are really on the rise now. So,
Good.
That's not something that maybe always makes a headline because it's kind of below the surface, but it is a very important positive development in Oak Hill.
Yep.
So hats
Love
off to everybody, that has made that happen. Okay, another important story that we need to tell you is
this was the one I was going to ask you about
ATMs. Card skimmers. Now,
I had heard about this.
I'm a very careful person, and I'm a dinosaur, so I don't really like to use ATMs. I don't like to do a lot of things electronic that I don't have to.
Sure.
Kicking and screaming, I'll do what I have to, but I just soon have a teller hand me the money.
Yeah.
I
get it.
But anyway, this was a story that broke earlier in the week through the Oak Hill Police Department, and according to Oak Hill Police Chief Dave Ward, they have opened an investigation into a deep card skimmer that was located in an ATM in the village. Now, Chief Ward did not say where it was in the village. I mean, didn't want to put,
Sure.
he didn't want to put that like a black cloud over any institution or any ATM because, this could have been done probably about any ATM.
For sure.
It's happened before. And so Dylan has put this up here. Maybe a little bit hard to tell, but this is a graphic, a picture that shows, an ATM that has had one of these card skimmers put on there.
Yes.
And when you put the card skimmer in there, I understand, some important financial information can fall into wrong hands.
Absolutely.
Because, this skimmer is reading the card that you're putting in there. Is that not right?
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
All right. And this shows some of the differences there. Now, since this story came out about the ATM in Oak Hill, and of course, the information was shared with other law enforcement agencies because, it could be more than one place.
Yeah.
And you find out the hard way that there is one. Public checking ATMs, the bank officials checking ATMs regularly or whatever. I'm sure that's picked up because of this. But there was somewhere in Jackson, and I do not know where they found another skimmer since this happened.
Yep.
The Ohio Valley Bank, if you're on Facebook, go to their Facebook. They have a very good explanation in addition to what the chief in Oak Hill put out and what we put out in the paper so far. And we're going to have an updated story in our Saturday paper. Now, OVB wanted to make it clear it didn't happen at their place.
They're just trying to help you.
But they're trying to help in general.
Yeah,
they were trying to, they're the ones that had this graphic here to show what that looks like.
So basically it's like a device that sits on top of the thing that you would actually stick your card into. So you stick your card in there and it picks up all your personal information, not just the bank that you're putting the card in their machine.
Yeah, this is one of the quotes that the Chief Ward said. Although skimmers can be hard to spot, it is possible to identify a skimming device by doing a visual and physical inspection. Before using an ATM, he advises, or a gas pump that might use something similar, check for alignment issues between the card reader and the panel underneath it. Is it fitting in there right? Are you seeing are you sensing something in there so it's not it doesn't slip in there so easy, Skimmers are often placed on top of the actual card reader, making it stick out at an odd angle or cover arrows in a panel. So look for that.
Yes.
Compare the card reader to others at a neighboring ATM or gas pump and look out for any differences. Gas pumps should have a security tape or sticker over the cabinet panel. If the tape looks like it has been ripped or broken, avoid using that card reader because a thief may have tampered with it.
Okay.
Try looking inside the card reader to see if anything is already inserted. If there is, it may be a thin plastic circuit board that can steal information from your card.
So smart.
So this is like, stealing information off a credit card.
Yeah. You stick your card in there, it pulls off all your information and you don't even realize it.
Right. And this happened at an ATM, but just anecdotally, when I go to get gas, it looks like most people are using cards to pay for it. I don't. I want to hand cash to somebody. But for the many people who do, same thing with an ATM can happen.
Yep. Absolutely.
At the gas pumps.
Well, if something's like, and you typically what an ATM looks like or the gas card reader or whatever, especially if you see something like sticking out, protruding, like yank on it.
Right.
Like, here's your card reader back, you jerks.
Right. You really need to do that.
Yeah.
You
really be vigilant about it.
Right. Because most people do use ATMs regularly or as a convenience when they need to, because, you might be at a time when a bank isn't open or whatever. And, I know they work very easily. So you just have to always be aware.
Yep.
Always be aware. All right, we're going to go to another story now that's a positive story. We're going to go to Vinton County now, and that new beautiful bank building that the Vinton County National Bank will be building up in MacArthur. It's starting to take form. Some of the block is starting to be laid. This was a picture that was taken earlier in the week, Tuesday, I think. Red Thompson Jr. stopped by. When he stopped by, none other than Randy Evans, the owner of
the big chief
of Randy Evans Construction, was up there, kind of led Red through what is done now, what is being done now, and Red was able to take this picture. Randy Evans said, took quite some time to get through all the site work, a lot of things involved there, clearing the site so you're ready for construction, but that construction has actually started. I've never seen a date that's been released for when they expect construction to be over. So many variables this far out, but they do expect it to be open sometime in 2024. And obviously, you have some great weather now to get a head start.
Yes,
The snow's not flying. It's been fairly dry overall, and so Randy getting a good start on some of the foundation work, some of the walls going up there, but some of the features. It's a $2.6 million two-story facility. It will have more teller spaces than the old place. It'll have nice new offices and meeting rooms. All retail activity will be taking place there rather than at the current bank site at 112 West Main Street, down the street, not too far, about a quarter mile. That old building will remain open after the new building opens, but it will strictly be kind of like an administrative office place. No retail things. It won't be open to the public in the sense that there's business done there.
Right.
All retail activity will take place at the new building. And of course, it will have a 4-lane drive-through. So for the convenience of the public there. So, they don't even have to necessarily even go in that building to get your business done. So,
and Pete Wilson can get his cash handed to him by a teller.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. Okay, another thing that is important that's happening in Jackson County, it doesn't sound exciting, but it is real important, especially if you're a property owner. Jackson County Auditor Tiffany Ridgway announced earlier this week that all the results are in from the 2023 reappraisal update. I think I'm right on this. Every 7 years, your personal property and your real estate property is appraised. They go around, they take pictures, they may ask questions or whatever, and the value of your property will increase your taxes if your property is worth more. Your property may be worth more because of improvements. It may be worth more because of what's around you in your neighborhood and like that. It may be worth more because of inflation.
The good news is if you you've done some, maybe demolition at your property, it may be worth less. So you can get that too.
But
it rarely works that way.
Right. Yeah. Well, everybody, who owns property pays the property taxes, twice a year or once a year if you want to pay one big lump sum. but the information on what your property is worth from a taxable standpoint is now available. You can find it on the county auditor's website at jacksoncountyauditor.org, or you can go in person to the Jackson County Courthouse in the auditor's office, and they will show you this. But this is very important.
Website.
If your property has gone up, and she did tell me that overall there is a fairly big increase. You got to remember this covers 7 years.
Yes.
So this will take place when they bill you next year, I think, the updated property values. There's 2 ways your property taxes can go up. One is the value of your property, and it's not going to go up every year just because you do things. It's going to be it's when it's reappraised, and that happens every 7 years.
Yep.
There is what they call a triennial update that is every 3 years, and that's not as exhaustive of a process. When they update that, I think that's more involved on real estate market values in general, in your area.
Yes.
But 7 years, I mean, they have somehow, maybe you didn't know it, but they've taken pictures of your property, they've inspected it.
They know.
They may have called, I don't know exactly all what they might do, but usually these are outside firms hired by auditor's office to do that work. But it's not necessarily final. What they've come up with. There is a period where you can check it out and say, "How did you get to that figure? My golly!" And you can, I think
contest it.
I think there, you can certainly get an explanation, and there is an appeals process.
Absolutely,
there is. That's not been released to here in this thing, but the first thing is to see what it is and go from there. This is something you'll want to know, as you plan out your budget next year and all like that. The other way, of course, those taxes go up is if they're voted up, via a tax levy.
Yep.
So next year, most people are going to see a fairly big increase in their property values. That's a general comment, but you can probably expect that. As you said, certainly variations because they look at each piece of property.
Like I know, for example, we had a piece of property that had a home on it. When the pipeline came through, we had to tear the home down for the pipeline. And so then there's no home there anymore. So obviously the value went down of the property, which is very rare. But I went there and did that appeal process and then that was readjusted.
Right. And one thing, this is anecdotal too, so I got to watch what I say. But it's not automatic. It's not like they just say, well, we don't care what you think. I mean, they really do look at what you have to say. And if you don't say anything, nothing's going to happen because, a reappraisal company has decided what it ought to be. It is different people who are involved in the appeals process.
Yes.
And they're
just
local.
Go to the auditor's office.
They're local people.
They'll walk you through it.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the Board of Tax Appeals or something like that.
Something like that. And, if you've had, for example, an arm's length transaction where I bought Pete Wilson's house and it's appraised for X amount of money, but I bought it, say, for less than that, you can go and say, well, I know you appraised it at this, but this is what I paid for it. That's a pretty good argument of what it's worth, right?
Right. Yeah, you can have a second.
There are different things that
you can have a second opinion throughout. You can do an appraisal of your own. Maybe you've had one done.
Correct.
For a possible transaction or something.
Well, that's funny because I have an appraisal here that says X, and you're saying this, but.
Right. They do take into consideration all those things. So. They really do, from my understanding. Yep. In the past, that's been the case. There is another great act of generosity that we have to tell you about. We had this in the paper about a week ago, but I haven't had to talk about it on television. But there is a young lady who a lot of people in this county know, Jennifer Ousley Pittman.
Yes.
She is kind of like the office administrator at the Jackson County Veterans Service Office downtown. She's been in that position for some time. I know Arnold Tripp, who is the Veterans Service Officer, says she runs the office. He always says that, and maybe she does. But Jennifer, unfortunately lost her husband earlier this year at too young of an age, Pete Pittman. Yep. And Pete was a top-notch fisherman. That was, his favorite hobby, the fishing. What she did, making, lemonade out of lemons she decided to, very enterprising and creative, and so generous Jennifer is with other people who go through trouble. She done a lot of fund drives for people who have medical problems and to raise things for school projects and like that. She's just that kind of girl. But what she did was she had a raffle of, she sold raffle tickets for chances on this Sun Tracker boat that Pete had that was very valuable. And, you know, for the price of a raffle ticket, I'm not sure what it was, you had a chance to win this very valuable boat.
Okay.
And a lot of people probably wanted the boat, and a lot of people wanted to support the project.
Correct.
Well, at the end of the day, somebody won the boat. I'm not sure I know who that is in this information. But anyway, it raised $8,000. And she donated that $8,000 to the Jackson High School fishing team lately. And here,
oh my gosh,
here is that presentation.
Wow.
Jeff Strasser is the advisor or coach for the first year Jackson High School fishing team. Remember how successful it was?
Very.
They did very well in the state tournament. They had several people go to the international or national tournament out on the Mississippi River in Iowa, I think it was. But here are members of the fishing team who are being presented that $8,000
that is so
check.
Cool.
Jason Justice there on the right in the beard, he's the one that is handing over the check. He did that for Jennifer. But I tell you what a gesture by Jennifer to help the Jackson High School fishing team and to honor her husband's memory in a very special way.
That is really, really cool.
It really is, absolutely. Okay, a couple of other things that are happening. This is going to happen tomorrow, and I'm planning to be there for this. The Vinton County Historical and Genealogical Society, they do a memorial wreath laying ceremony every year. They used to always do it in advance of Memorial Day, but now they moved it around, and it's going to take place tomorrow at Elk Cemetery. That is the big cemetery on the north end of MacArthur, and they're going to lay a wreath at the grave of Daniel Will.
Yes.
Daniel Will. People in MacArthur know the Will family. The Will family, you know, are been the they started out as the owners and certainly have been the executive officers of the Vinton County National Bank.
Absolutely.
And remember, we're not talking about anymore. The Vinton County National Bank is not a little hometown bank.
No.
It is part of a big company, the holding company. You know, there's banking offices all over the place in southern, south central, southeastern Ohio, and even into central Ohio and Columbus. And Daniel Will was the one who started it all back in the 1800s.
A few years ago.
He founded the bank of Will, Brown and Company, which later consolidated with the Vinton County Bank to become the Vinton County National Bank. He was a successful banker for 57 years, so he got it all started. He was also the proprietor and co-proprietor of several general stores in Vinton County and the owner of the Will House, which became the Hotel MacArthur.
Oh.
So you see how important Daniel Will was to the history of Vinton County and certainly the business history. And an excellent selection to get this memorial wreath laying. What this does is it honors the history of Vinton County. You know, it's a history lesson as they honor a person. And for younger people who may be out of the loop, have never heard about it, or newbies in Vinton County, you learn some heritage there. Mm-hmm. And so that will be, it's open to the public. It's taking place at 11 a.m. at his gravesite in Elk Cemetery. If you've not been there, just drive through MacArthur, keep driving, and to the left, you'll see a big cemetery. That is Elk Cemetery. The public is welcome to go there. The Vinton County Historical and Genealogical Society always put on a great event. It's celebratory, but it's also solemn as well, celebrating the history and bringing positive attention to somebody in Vinton County history who is worthy of being of receiving a latter-day tribute.
Yes, absolutely.
Family members, friends, and the public are invited to attend. It's just not for the family members. There will be a light lunch hosted by the Vinton County National Bank following the ceremony at the museum, in their history museum immediately following the ceremony. Okay, so what else can we tell you about? Running out of time, so I'm going to keep rolling here. The Ohio Deer Archery season begins tomorrow.
You got your bow and arrows.
That's right. There's been kind of a slow evolution there in deer season.
Yeah.
Where more and more people are going the archery
They
route.
are.
Some people feel that's more sporting.
Yeah.
Because, it's easier to kill a deer with a gun than it is with a bow and arrow.
Sure.
And also the season is longer.
Yeah.
The deer gun season is usually 1 week in December, and they usually throw in an extra week as well. And there's also a weekend for the kids.
Yep.
But the archery season begins this Saturday, September 30th, and it will go all the way through February the 4th.
Wow.
And even during the gun season, you can do the archery too. And that includes crossbow hunting, longbow hunting, and compound bow hunting. But most people, I guess, use crossbows. And the popularity of the deer archery season is in part to an extensive season, as we said, starting Saturday and going through February 4th. The deer gun season is not until November 27th, and it's to December 3rd. It always comes off Thanksgiving.
Yes, right after Thanksgiving.
Into that next week, and then they throw in an extra weekend in December. It'll be December 16th and 17th. But in the 2022-23 season, hunters checked 210,977 deer, 99,742, nearly 100,000, almost half was with archery equipment.
Really?
Right.
I would have never guessed that.
And before it was kind of like, well, you can do it this way too, but it's become very, very popular.
Cool.
Almost as popular as the gun season.
Yeah.
So that starts tomorrow. All right. We want to tip our hat to the Jackson Band Program. We talked about all that Apple Festival activity, and, it was a great show, of course. But up at Alumni Stadium, they had the big Jackson Apple Festival Band Show. They had 13 high school bands, plus the Ohio University Marching 110. And we squeezed all that Apple Festival stuff into the paper. It dominated the paper on Wednesday. But one thing we didn't get in was the band show. That's going to go in on Saturday.
Okay.
And we want to show you some pictures from our band show because we had a lot of local participation. This is the Jackson High School Marching Band, of course. They went first, and they were one of the last high school bands to perform as well. They were all in their dress uniforms. This was non-competitive, but the bands were the focus. You got to remember, the bands get lots of attention in parades. They perform pregame and halftime of the football, but it's mainly about the football. At the band shows, it's about the bands.
It's about the bands. Dylan, are you having flashbacks?
Yeah, a lot of them.
and they raise some money too.
Sure.
At these band shows as well. They put on a great show. But in addition to the Jackson High School Band, there was the I believe that's the
Vinton County Band.
That's the Vinton County Band under Sam Kugel. Of course, the Jackson High School Band under Ryan Hurd. Then, of course, we also had the Oak Hill Band under Bryce Werntz.
Yep.
And the Wellston Band was not there. I know they are a competitive band. They may have been at a competition that day.
Yep.
But the Ohio University Band, they played last.
Super
and of course,
cool.
Everybody. There they are during their performance at Alumni Stadium. You look across the way, you don't see anybody in the stands in the visitor stand, but in the home stands, I can guarantee it was packed. And all the bands put on a great show. And the climax, of course, was the Ohio University Marching 110. All those bands were in the grand finale parade that Saturday night, and Wellston High School Marching Rockets were there as well.
Cool.
So we'll have some pictures and a report on that in Saturday's paper as well. Speaking of the Oak Hill Marching Oaks, they're going to have a band show of their own this Saturday. So we want to give them some publicity. Here is a group shot of the Oak Hill Band under the direction of Bryce Werntz. But this is going to be this Saturday evening, the 18th annual band show. It'll be at Davis Stadium, beautiful stadium there on the Oak Hill campus. There will be bands from Oak Hill, Jackson, Vinton County, Portsmouth Clay, Piketon, Green Township, Paint Valley, and Federal Hocking. Gates will open at 6 p.m. The parade of bands, when they'll all come by, will be at 6:50 p.m., and the show will begin at 7. Each band will put on their own show. Tickets at the gate will cost $10. Of course, it supports the band program. You can get them a little cheaper, $10 at the gate for adults, $5 for students. The adults can get tickets a little cheaper online, till midnight tonight. You just have to go on the band's Facebook or maybe on the school website to link that. And I believe they cost $8 instead of $10.
Okay.
So you save a little bit of money if you know you want to go. All right. Also, remember another big thing happening tonight. I know you probably talked about this on television. We want to remind you that the Secret Celebrity Renovation Show featuring Ellie King, I believe that episode is on tonight, is it not?
That's what I've heard through the grapevine, yes.
Right. It will be, it's on CBS. The show is called The Secret Celebrity Renovation, and it will be on, I'm looking here, it's on from 8 to 9 p.m. on CBS. So depending on where you get your television,
we'll be famous.
It's hard to tell your channel there, depending on, but if you're on on Spectrum, if you're on Spectrum here in town, that would be either channels 6 or 8, I believe.
Very, very
No,
cool.
I'm sorry. 10 or 13.
10 or 13.
10 or 13. One's Columbus and one's Huntington. Channels 10 or 13.
Yep.
But, of course, you'll see a lot of local angles there because this celebrity renovation is all about a celebrity picking somebody as a choice for a renovation of their home.
For their home, yes.
And she picked her grandfather who lives in Wellston.
Yes.
And so she came back last summer to do the filming for that segment or her part of tonight's show. And they were at Rowdy's. They were at different spots in Wellston. I believe they might have been at Jerry's Do-It Center.
Yeah.
So and when Ellie was there, great interaction with the fans. She may be a big star, but she's still a Jackson County
super
girl.
Cool, yeah.
She lived in Wellston for a while, still has family in Jackson County, and she's good friends with Nathan Kitts over there at Rowdy's.
Yep.
So 8 to 9 tonight. If you can't be there because you're at a football game, get that old DVR working.
Very good.
All right. Another thing that's going on that we want to tell you about is that the Wellston Ohilco Lights registration has begun. The Ohilco Society does that great Christmas tree display in Pride Park in Wellston.
Okay.
And they always sell out. And, they have 100-some trees.
Like
so you got to make that commitment online, registration online to get a tree. You pay for the tree, and then you're responsible for decorating it. And there's great tree displays last year in all of our local towns. They had one at the Vinton County Fairgrounds for the first time last year. They have one at Manpower Park in Jackson, down at Central Memorial Park in Oak Hill. But the one in Pride Park has been the largest one of these in recent years.
Huge.
I mean, it has become something extremely popular.
Yep.
And so the Ohilco Society, I know it's not even October yet, but they're giving you the chance to make your commitment to be involved in that now.
Very cool.
And it is limited. They will run out of space for trees. So if you're interested in that, you want to sign up.
It's just like one of those things that if you go to the park and you take a look at it in the evening, it's like magical.
It is it is something
so
to see.
cool.
They usually have a ceremony, or people in town know it, in Wellston know it, where they light them up for the first time or whatever.
Yeah.
Usually on a Friday heading into the Christmas season. But those trees will be decorated, and they'll basically be lit through the Christmas season, which unofficially is Thanksgiving weekend through the end of the year. Now those dates have not been set, but that's what's happened in the past. Something like that. All right, a couple other things happening tomorrow. The Jenkins Care Community will host their car show and hog roast tomorrow. They're at Jenkins Care Community at 142 Jenkins Memorial Road in Wellston. It's always been a big event. Car registration begins at 10, judging at 1 p.m. There'll be food, drinks, and 50-50 chances that you can buy. The proceeds will benefit the Resident Activity Fund. And Jordan Lackey, the activities director, is making that happen. Also, there'll be a Run for the Sun fundraiser tomorrow. The Redeemed Riders of Jackson are doing that. And it's not a run. It's not a ride. It is a fundraiser in the form of a pancake and sausage breakfast from 9 a.m. to noon. They're not charging you anything. It's just by a donation only. But it will be at the Buckeye Community Services Day Hab Building at 220 Morton Street.
Very cool. All
right. The Redeemed Riders Run for Sun fundraiser. Also, Freedom Chapel Church in Wellston. It's at 1015 West Broadway Street. They're having a fall festival. It's just not for church people. It's for the whole community. It's free. Starts at 1 p.m. on Saturday. There'll be a chili cook-off, a bounce house, treats, games, and much more. The whole family is welcome. The pastor there has reached me more than once wanting to make sure that we get the word out because they want everybody to come. It's for the community.
Yep.
All right. Also, this Sunday, the Vinton County Beef Spooktacular will be held. This is kind of like a livestock event with a October Halloween type theme.
Yeah.
It's called the Beef Spooktacular. It's hosted by the Vinton County Agricultural Society or the Fair Board. It will be this Sunday, beginning at 8 a.m. Registration and weigh-in from 8 to 9:30. Showmanship will start at 11. There'll be different classes for the beef showed by the kids. It will be available for Vinton County residents ages 21 and under. Open classes will have age restrictions. So if you're into the livestock or you just want to support the kids, this will be taking place at the fairgrounds on Sunday with the showmanship stuff starting at 11 a.m. All right, football Friday night.
Football Friday night.
The Jackson Ironmen will be at Miami Trace tonight. The Ironmen are 5-1. They won their first FAC game very impressively last Friday at Washington Courthouse.
Yes,
now,
they
Miami
did.
Is might be as good or better than Washington Courthouse.
Okay.
So this game could have implications on the FAC championship. Jackson is the king of the hill. They've won the last several championships in the FAC, so everybody is gunning for them. So we'll see what happens tonight. That game will be on the air, WKOV 96.7 FM. Broadcast time, 6:35 p.m., kickoff at 7 p.m. Dan, and Pete will be there.
Yes, they will. You will.
Right, we'll be there, God willing. The Vinton County Vikings are also 5-1. Great season there as well. Excuse me. They will be at home, non-conference game against Scioto Northwest. And the great Bob Grillo and Jeff Thacker will be there to broadcast the game on WYRO 98.7 FM. Broadcast time approximately 6:45 p.m. Kickoff there 7 p.m. as well. The Wellston Golden Rockets 3-3. Remember, winless last year, but 3-3 this year. But they got a tall order. They got to go to defending champion Nelsonville York. The Buckeyes are undefeated in the conference, and they've only lost one game overall, if my memory serves me correctly. Wellston is 3-3 overall, and they have won their first two conference games. So technically, this is a showdown game.
Yes.
I mean, it is. Wellston's the underdog, but they've been playing very well under Coach Chris Graham. So we wish the Rockets the best. Chris O'Boyle will be there to lead the broadcast. Once again, broadcast time, we figure about 6:45 p.m., 15 minutes before the kickoff at 7 p.m. And we want to remind you, unfortunately, the Oak Hill Oaks, as we said at the top of our newscast, out of action tonight because of the number of injuries on the team and the number of players that are left healthy enough to play. Not enough. Yep. So that game's canceled. It will not be replayed. The second cancellation this year. Hopefully, fingers crossed, the Oak Hill will be able to play their remaining 3 games if they're able to do it. So Oak Hill is supposed to play Wheelersburg, so that game will not be heard tonight, obviously.
That's right.
It's normally on WCGO 97.7 FM. And then one other thing on sports that real quick we want to tell you about. The Lady Vikings girls golf team made school history. They became the first team, the first girls golf team in school history to win a Tri-Valley Conference Ohio Championship.
Way
and
to
there
go,
they
ladies.
are, ladies. Sometimes some of these sports, because there's so many of them, you get overlooked because, football and soccer and the higher profile sports. And of course, when you're golfing, it's not like you have a lot of people following you like they do in the PGA. But these girls deserve attention and plaudits. From left to right are Katie Collins, Olivia Schroeder-McDaniel, Cadence Graham. Then you've got Coach Brian Radeball, Kelly Collins, Riley McNichols, and Maddie Kane. They are the 2003 TVC Girls Golf Champions.
Nice.
And their picture will be in the paper as well.
Love
by
it.
golly. So
is that all you have, Pete?
I've got a stack here and a stack here I didn't get through. So if there's no news over the weekend, we still have some left over.
There you go.
All right.
Well, Pete, thank you so much for hanging in with us this morning, and good luck at the game tonight. Have a blast.
Okay. We always have fun doing that.
Yes, you do.
It doesn't get old to us. We
That's
may be
right.
old, but it doesn't get old for us.
No. Well, have a wonderful weekend, everyone. And we appreciate you so much for tuning in. And we'll be right back here on Monday. Bye-bye.